My name is Kristen. I am 26 years old and work as a typical office lady. My appearance and abilities are average, and I don't have any particularly outstanding features, although I do have a somewhat strong personality. With this self-introduction, the mixer began. The event was organized by the women from the department next to mine and was a networking session with men from a slightly larger company than ours. It was originally planned to be a 4-on-4 event, but due to a lack of participants, I was asked to join at the last minute. I'm not particularly beautiful, but I'm not so ugly as to spoil the mood, and I'm sociable enough to fit right into a mixer. Currently, I don't have a boyfriend and I wasn't expecting to find a wonderful encounter at the mixer, so I focused on enjoying the meal. The venue was a casual Italian restaurant. Right from the start, the other 3 participating women set their sights on 2 men who were handsome, slim, and had the look of Korean pop stars. The remaining men were a man with plain looks wearing glasses and a well-built, large man. The large man sitting opposite me introduced himself as Ryan. His robust muscles, visible even through his shirt, along with his facial features and thick beard, were exactly my type. I've always preferred muscular, burly men over slim, pretty boys. To be specific, a rugby player would be ideal. He doesn't need to come riding on a white horse. In fact, a man who can carry a white horse would be my ideal. This is one reason why I'm often invited to mixers. My preferences hardly overlap with those of other women. You have amazing muscles. Do you play any sports? I asked him actively. I played rugby in college, and now I focus on weight training. That was a jackpot. I rejoiced inwardly. Ryan also participated, focusing on the meal and didn't actively talk to the women much, enjoying the delicious food that was served. His way of eating was impressive. Kristen, right? Do you exercise too? Ryan joined the conversation. Can you tell? Working out is also my hobby. Ah, I thought so. You seem to have a good physique. Though maybe that's not the best way to put it, Ryan said, smiling cheerfully. That smile, too, was completely my type. Afterward, we got along very well, talking about weight training, going to the gym, and muscles. We seemed a bit alienated from the other mixer participants, but I didn't mind. Ryan and I exchanged contact information and made plans to work out together in the future. At this meal intended for making acquaintances, it seems that Ryan and I were the only ones who formed a pair. Ryan is a year older than me, 27 years old. His height and weight are 6 and 198 pounds, respectively. I am 5'4" and 125 pounds. Usually, men with large builds prefer small and delicate women, but Ryan showed no such tendencies, and he seemed genuinely happy to enjoy bodybuilding, our common hobby. Thus we met, and not only did we go on training dates, but we also enjoyed typical dates like watching movies and dining out, and naturally conversations like, I want to have gym equipment in the living room when we get married and we'll need a big living room for that started happening. When I invited Ryan to my home to introduce him to my parents, they liked the considerate and cheerful him very much, making it feel like our marriage was imminent. Next week, I planned to visit Ryan's home. I heard that Ryan lost his mother in his childhood and was raised mostly by his sister, who is 7 years older than him. There might be the typical issues with a sister-in-law, but she might be easier to handle compared to a mother-in-law. I was nervous during my first visit, but Ryan's sister, Vanessa, who is stunningly beautiful, greeted us. She should be in her mid-30s, being 7 years older, and she is so beautiful that I couldn't help staring. She looked like a more refined version of Ryan, almost the same height as me, but slender and seemingly without much muscle, and her long black hair was striking. Ryan's father is well built with thick eyebrows, very much like Ryan. Vanessa entertained us with homemade seafood pasta, but a small problem occurred. I am allergic to shellfish. Vanessa, I'm sorry, I'm allergic to crab and shrimp. A small amount causes mild hives, but I had to avoid the plentiful shrimp and crab on the pasta. I told you about the allergy, didn't I, Vanessa? Ryan was supposed to know I'm allergic to shellfish. We've dined together many times. No, I didn't hear about it. Sorry, Kristen. It's okay. Ryan, can you eat this crab and shrimp for me? With that, Ryan gladly said, of course, and took the crab and shrimp from my plate to his. I felt Vanessa's gaze become a bit stern, but I didn't particularly mind. I'll be more careful next time. But Kristen, if you get married, Ryan won't be able to eat crab or shrimp anymore. Vanessa said that, and I thought that I wouldn't use ingredients that could cause an allergic reaction when cooking myself. I felt a bit guilty, and Vanessa added more words. It's really a shame because he likes them so much. Huh? Is she blaming me? I was confused when Ryan said, don't worry, I can eat crab and shrimp outside, and I can always come here to eat them. During the time I was there, Vanessa repeatedly said, Ryan has always loved crab and shrimp since he was a child, and as long as I'm cooking, I'll make plenty for him. Her words made me feel unwelcome. Moreover, when Vanessa said, I'll see you out, and was sending Ryan off at the entrance, she said, even after you're married, you're always really welcome to visit here, as if I was taking Ryan away. Ryan, it seems your sister doesn't think very highly of me. I didn't know you liked crab and shrimp so much, I said, feeling down, and Ryan comforted me. Yeah, I like crab and shrimp, but don't worry too much about my sister. She's just a bit too caring about what I eat because it's very important to her. Vanessa might be a bit of a sister complex, especially since she took on the role of a mother after losing their mom. Her traits as a sister-in-law and mother-in-law are enhanced. Vanessa has an extremely handsome boyfriend. He is actually more handsome than a celebrity, and many women's eyes turn into hearts when they see him. Personally, I don't find him particularly attractive. Vanessa's boyfriend, Jeff, is 33 years old and owns a nightclub. When Vanessa used to work, she was taken to the club by a colleague, and Jeff was the top bartender at the time. His job involved charming women to earn money, but he ultimately fell for Vanessa and decided to become independent and a business owner. Jeff loves my sister deeply. Even my father, who was initially against the idea of him being a bartender, has come to accept him as a business owner. I even work out with him sometimes. He says he wants to put on a moderate amount of muscle, Ryan explained. Vanessa and Jeff, and Ryan and I sometimes dine together. Once, when I was about to add lemon and sauce to Ryan's shrimp fry, Vanessa suddenly raised her voice and said, "Wait a minute. Ryan likes to put ketchup on his fried foods." Ryan responded to this, "Don't worry." Kristen suggested I try the lemon and sauce, and it turned out to be really good. Of course, ketchup is good too, and tartar sauce works, but lately I've been particularly fond of lemon and sauce, but Vanessa's expression clearly clouded over. Such situations were not only observed during meals but also in other contexts. For instance, when Ryan began showing interest in foreign dramas influenced by me, or his style of dress started to change gradually, Vanessa always seemed displeased. There were also things that felt a bit odd. When we dined at Ryan's house, I often ended up with hives, a reaction to allergies. Although no crab or shrimp were directly served, it was possible that condiments containing extracts of these shellfish or finely mixed ingredients were used, which I would not recognize. Realizing this, I tried to get actively involved in cooking at Ryan's home, but Vanessa firmly refused. "If that's the case, why don't you help with the dishes instead?" she said. And I ended up washing the dishes without any opportunity to check what was really going on. One day, I started the conversation by saying, "I got hives again after we ate here last time," but she responded, "That's strange, we didn't use crab or shrimp." "Kristen, is it possible you have other allergies?" It was as if she was suggesting that I was the problem. She then added, "If you have allergies to so many things, it's going to be difficult for you to cook for Ryan. I'm worried about him clearly prioritizing Ryan without any real concern for me. For the record, I don't have any other allergies. I have had a thorough allergy test before." Even after telling her this, Vanessa was not convinced. I realized that it wasn't just a matter of her disliking me, but that she was reluctant to let Ryan move away from her. However, Vanessa is already 35 years old, and it's not feasible for her to remain overly attached to her brother. Since she is infatuated with her boyfriend, I'm considering if there is a way to resolve this with his help. Hey, aren't Vanessa and Jeff going to get married? I think they should move forward, I asked Ryan, and he replied, I've talked about it many times too. But she says she can't think about marriage until I'm settled and married. It seems that Vanessa herself might be delaying her own marriage. And then, an incident took place one day. When Vanessa and Jeff invited us for a meal, right after Ryan excused himself to the bathroom, Vanessa also stood up saying, I need to step out too. Shortly after, Ryan returned supporting Vanessa, who was covering her mouth with a handkerchief and appeared to be in pain. Jeff stood up and offered, Are you okay? I'll take you home, but Vanessa declined, saying, It's fine. We've already ordered the food, so enjoy yourselves. I'm going home with Ryan, and they went home together. Left behind, Jeff and I faced a slightly awkward atmosphere, but since it was a fancy French course, we made sure to enjoy it. Then Jeff looked at me and said, Kristin, you're quite unique. Very innovative and lovely, complimenting me. As expected of a former bartender, he's skilled at flattering women. But it didn't end there. Unbelievably, Jeff gently took my hand and whispered in my ear, Hey, how about we have fun together? No, I thought. What is he thinking? Right after his girlfriend, feeling unwell, just left. He's supposed to be crazy about Vanessa. Handsome as he may be, his behavior was questionable. This action triggered a flurry of questions in my mind. Please stop joking. Vanessa would be sad if she heard this, I lightly admonished him, but Jeff's response was unexpected. With a meaningful smile, he said, She won't be upset. Anyway, I'm not at all interested in handsome men, I stated clearly, showing my intention to decline. To that, Jeff just laughed and said, You're interesting, Kristin, without taking offense. Refusing his offer to drive me, I hurried to the station while contacting Ryan. I felt a strong need to see Ryan. Why did you call me to such a place? What happened? Ryan asked. In a hurry to find a private place, I summoned Ryan to a shop in front of the station. I'm sorry. By the way, how's your sister? I asked, though I wasn't really worried. Ryan said, When we got home, she was fine right away. She was really causing a fuss. It's a pity we couldn't enjoy the French meal. Then, I made a shocking confession. Afterward, Jeff made a pass at me, I told Ryan, and his usually calm demeanor turned serious. What? Why? He's supposed to be with my sister, he said, stunned and at a loss for words. Yes. That's why I told him Vanessa would be sad. But Jeff said she won't be upset. What does that mean? I asked. That's bad, Ryan murmured, deep in thought. The story Ryan shared afterward was somewhat surprising. Whenever he introduced the women he dated to his sister, they inevitably broke up soon after. The reasons for the breakups consistently involved a woman saying they'd found someone else. Once I saw an ex-girlfriend getting friendly with a man who looked like Jeff. It was from a distance, and he was wearing sunglasses, so I thought I was mistaken, but Ryan said. Hearing that, I was astonished. It seemed that Vanessa might have orchestrated these scenarios with Jeff to ensure Ryan and his girlfriends broke up. This was too serious to be dismissed as a laughing matter. Normally, I avoided it, but I decided to share my suspicions with Ryan directly. I revealed how I often experienced hives after eating meals prepared by Vanessa and confirmed that I have no allergies other than to shellfish. I can understand that she wants to keep you close, but in this situation we can't be happy. And it's not good for her either, I said. Yeah, you're really right. Sorry, Kristin. I didn't expect it to come to this. I never thought my sister would go to such extremes. Ryan seemed clearly shaken, but this was a serious issue for me too. If you choose your sister, Ryan, then I can't continue this relationship. When I made my resolve clear, Ryan responded decisively. I choose you, Kristen. We'll tackle my sister's issues together. Once we leave the house, she won't be able to do anything." Then, with deep emotion, he added, "But I'm really glad you're not interested in handsome men. It wasn't all my fault that I got dumped. I couldn't help but sympathize and laugh a little." Thus, our bond strengthened even further, and we moved toward marriage. From that day on, I no longer went to Ryan's house. Keeping distance meant his sister could not interfere. The wedding preparations were going smoothly, but it wasn't without concerns. A little internet research reveals numerous horror stories about things that can go wrong at weddings and receptions. Unexpected things might happen, so it's best to be prepared. During a meeting about the ceremony, when I asked the planner how often wedding troubles occur, she sensed my anxiety and kindly asked, "Is there anything in particular you're worried about allowing me to open up and consult?" Hoping nothing would go wrong, I entered the dressing room on the wedding day, only to be met with a shocking sight. There was Vanessa, furiously tearing my wedding dress apart with a large cutter knife. Scattered around her feet were trampled accessories. I had expected some sabotage, but imagined something like water or coffee being spilled on the dress. However, I never thought she would cut the dress with a cutter. "It's all ruined now. What a shame," Vanessa said, a smile playing on her beautiful face. But I responded without flinching, "It's all rentals anyway." Naturally, most people don't order their wedding dresses as expensive haute couture. Her smile faltered a bit. "What? But you can't have a wedding without a dress." "Just in case, I have a spare dress prepared. It's a shame because I liked the ruined dress more. But I guess I'll have to go with the other one," I replied as calmly as possible. Just then, there was a knock on the door, and Ryan entered the dressing room. Seeing the situation, Ryan was at a loss for words. "Vanessa, why would you do something like this?" The planner with me then asked, "All these dresses and accessories belong to the venue. Should I report the damage to the police? We'll cover all the costs." "I don't want a criminal in the family on our wedding day," Ryan responded. When Ryan used the word criminal, his sister finally grasped the situation and started yelling, "Criminal? What are you talking about? I'm just against this marriage." "Too bad, but we're already legally married and we're officially a couple. Canceling today's ceremony won't mean anything," I told her. After a moment of shock, she collapsed to the floor, murmuring, "No, that can't be true. It's a lie." At that moment, Ryan continued, "Please stop, Vanessa. I don't want to hate you." At his words, she broke down crying like a child. Ryan. I asked Ryan to take her out of the dressing room, and I quickly fixed my makeup and changed into the spare dress. At that time, my family and Ryan's father had arrived at the venue, and by chance, Jeff also showed up. "I can't believe she actually went through with it," Jeff said, making me wish he had intervened earlier if he foresaw this, but he probably didn't want to stop her as he was an accomplice. No one could have stopped her. I left Vanessa in Jeff's care, unable to stop her tears, and Ryan and I explained everything to our parents. Although everyone was a bit panicked, our calmness shifted the atmosphere to, "Let's just get through the wedding and reception smoothly today." Throughout the wedding, Vanessa kept crying, and at the reception, she constantly covered her eyes with a handkerchief. People who didn't know the situation thought she was just sad about her brother leaving home and looked on sympathetically. After somehow getting through the wedding and reception, we spent a night in a downtown hotel and then flew to Italy for our honeymoon. A week-long culinary tour awaited us. Ryan's words, "I don't want to dislike you any more than I already do," Vanessa must have been the greatest punishment for her. 3 months later, Jeff visited our new home. True to his understanding of women, he brought a large bouquet of flowers as a gift. Since then, Ryan had not gone back to his parents' home, so he hadn't seen his sister. Occasionally she would contact him, but Ryan curtly refused her calls. However, it seemed he was still concerned about her, and when he asked Jeff about her recent condition, an unexpected reply came. "Actually, I've been thinking about breaking up." What Ryan exclaimed in surprise, as Jeff continued, After that incident, she lost her former self. "I used to love her for her efforts for your sake," he said vaguely. "However, I thought it's better for Jeff to stay by her side. Without him, who knows when she might cause trouble again. Maybe you should get married and have children? If she has a boy who looks like Ryan, she might regain her passion," I suggested. I admit, I have a calculating side. But I want to protect our current life at all costs. Especially now that I am pregnant and cannot shake the anxiety about what would happen if we had a boy who resembled Ryan. To my surprise, Jeff was excited by my innovative idea. "I see. I hadn't considered marriage before, but I'll think it over." "Thanks," he replied enthusiastically, and indeed, just a month later, they were registered as a married couple. The former bartender's quick response and decisiveness were astonishing. Our child, a boy who looks just like me, was born later. I felt relieved that Vanessa would not be interested in him, and although I wasn't very interested in children before, I now appreciate the special cuteness of my own child. I can now somewhat understand the attachment Ryan's sister showed towards him. When Ryan said, "Kristen, don't become like my sister," his expression was a bit sad and complicated. Jeff and his wife went on to have a child as planned. She smoothly got pregnant and gave birth to her baby. Contrary to our expectations of a boy resembling Ryan, they had a beautiful little girl, precious like a gem. Unexpectedly, it was not Vanessa but Jeff who became enchanted with their daughter. He would send us cute photos of her growing up, even though we never asked for them. Recently, she celebrated her first birthday, growing even more angelic in charm. Our 2-year-old little troublemaker is quite the monster, but that just adds to his cuteness. Jeff has boasted that he would use any means necessary to scare off any boyfriends his daughter might have. The couple seems to have similar personalities in that regard. There seem to be frequent disagreements between them regarding their daughter, but honestly, it's none of my concern. They always send only photos of their daughter, never of the whole family, which I find a bit curious, but it's not my issue. After all, I am due to give birth again in 2 months. And it's going to be twins. The little ones are as active as small monsters, requiring a lot of attention. I don't have the spare capacity to worry about another family's issues. The training machine set up in our large living room is used only by Ryan in the end. I had planned to use it for postpartum weight management, but before I knew it, it was being used to hang laundry. I realized the importance of maintaining the strength and stamina needed to chase after our children. If we have more kids, we really should move the machine and go to the gym. But even without the machine, we won't be short of weights, Ryan jokes as he does squats with our son on his back. Watching him, I reconfirmed how much I love that about him. So I believe I will not become like his sister. I hope that when our children grow up, they too will have the experience of a wonderful life with great partners, just as I am experiencing now. I am a 44-year-old woman who recently lost her husband at the age of 48. We spent 20 long years together and married twice during that period. The first was 12 years ago, and then 5 years ago we remarried and began walking through life together again. A few weeks ago, it was discovered that he had cancer, and soon after, there was nothing we could do and he passed away. At first, I was shocked and it was very painful, but now I am able to calmly accept the fact. Time passed, and I have been able to slowly come to terms with it in my heart, cherishing the memories I had with him while looking forward to continuing my life. Even now, I miss his presence terribly, but I can no longer spend time with him. I am not sure if I will ever meet someone I can love as deeply as him. But now, I am a little relieved that he is resting peacefully. The last few months, especially, his condition seemed painful, so I am glad that he has finally been released from suffering. Last week, his funeral was finally concluded. While there was a feeling of relief in my heart, I also felt a deep sadness. Honestly, my relationship with my husband's parents was not very good. We hadn't spoken at all for the last 8 years. At one point, my husband decided to cut ties with his family and resolved never to speak to his parents again. There were many reasons for his decision. His parents only saw him as a source of money and showed no affection or consideration for him. Because they did not hide this, my husband chose to completely sever ties with them. Also, my husband had a younger sister named Cindy, who had long struggled with alcoholism, but it seemed that his parents cared more about her than him. Still, he did his best for his parents and sister. He was truly a family-oriented man, but when we started dating, my in-laws did not recognize his efforts and treated him coldly instead. I gradually began to understand how his family was treating him. I told my husband many times to value his own feelings more, but he always forgave his parents' attitude, saying, "I want to be kind because they're family." However, he started to change after we began dating, not just obeying his parents but clearly expressing his own opinions. I told him, "If your family treats you poorly, maybe they're not really the family you need." As our relationship continued, he grew increasingly dissatisfied with his parents, leading to conflicts between them. His parents were confused by his assertiveness and believed I was behind these changes, trying to pull him away from me. However, their schemes did not work, and instead, our bond grew stronger. My relationship with my in-laws was always confrontational, and honestly, it never went well. They consistently behaved terribly towards us, and each time our relationship deteriorated further. Given this background, I was genuinely surprised when Cindy and the in-laws showed up at the funeral. The last time we met, we had a big fight, and we parted on bad terms. Since then, there has been little contact between us, especially between the in-laws and us, and our relationship remained cold. Even after we were married, our relationship with the in-laws did not improve, and we naturally kept our distance from them. However, one year we were invited to a Christmas dinner by the in-laws, and we decided to attend as a minimum courtesy, but this would later turn out to be a big mistake. That dinner would become the catalyst for further cracks in our relationship, because from the moment we arrived, they kept criticizing his new business and assuming it would fail, making it the only topic of discussion. After the party, we questioned the in-laws about their criticism of my husband's business. They said they just wanted him to face reality. They also warned, "You shouldn't follow your sister's example." Actually, Cindy had started a similar business after my husband announced his venture. His business involved recycling plastic products. Unlike Cindy, he conducted market research and had a solid plan. This led to a major argument, and we decided never to contact them again and left the scene. It was clear that Cindy had failed in her business because she lacked my husband's keen intuition and had never made an effort herself, relying solely on his help. 8 years passed, and the in-laws never contacted us. They probably knew my husband had cancer, but despite that, they never reached out or visited us. Yet I was shocked and appalled when they appeared at the funeral. Seeing them for the first time in years stirred mixed emotions in me. During the funeral, I kept a close watch on them, but they didn't act unusually. Still, I couldn't help but wonder why they had come to the funeral. After it was over, they approached me, but I had no intention of accepting their words. I thanked them calmly for their condolences, but told them I did not wish for any further involvement and asked them to leave. I had not wanted deep involvement with them, even when my husband was alive. So now that he was gone, I felt even more that contact with them was pointless and made that clear. Then they stopped pretending and said they had something to talk about. I told them to wait until everyone had left because I was curious about what they wanted to discuss. After everyone had gone, I decided to listen to them outside the venue. Cindy had left with the others without waiting, so it was just me and my in-laws left. They explained that they had debated visiting my husband during his hospitalization, but ultimately decided against it as his condition had worsened significantly. They didn't want to burden him further. Their excuse seemed quite poor given that their son was dying, but I had no expectations from them. I firmly told them that no excuses were needed, and I just wanted them to get to the point. After a long day, I didn't have the energy to waste any more time. My attitude clearly surprised my in-laws, but I thought it was a natural reaction. I felt the reason they had come was probably to say a proper goodbye to their son, my husband. Additionally, I suspected that discussing my husband's inheritance was also one of their motives. It was already clear that I would be taking over his affairs, which everyone should understand by now. That was his wish, and I had supported him in everything, so it was a natural progression. The documents were already prepared. When they broached the subject, I informed them that they had no rights whatsoever. Everything was decided from the beginning, and all legal proceedings were arranged as soon as we knew about his illness. I quickly realized they were trying to involve Cindy in the business, but I had no intention of accepting that. After a brief silence, they asked if they couldn't take over the business, could they at least inherit some real estate? They expressed a desire to own our house, which we had invested considerable time and effort in designing. Apparently, they thought they could get the house since they had no real estate of their own. They said the house was too big for me to live in alone. They talked about wanting to change their own home, planning to move into ours and rent out their house to increase their income. Hearing this proposal, I was truly shocked. After not contacting us for 8 years, showing up suddenly at the funeral and asking to take over the house we built was utterly unacceptable. I felt outraged and yelled at them to leave. I couldn't stand looking at them. I already harbored significant anger towards them, and I believe they felt similarly towards me, as I had shouted at them twice before. When I raised my voice, they immediately retorted, "We just want to have a calm discussion." But I responded coldly. They didn't like that and said, "You should show more respect to your elders." I quickly rebutted. I pointed out their lack of respect for the deceased, criticizing them for appearing like vultures at this moment, right after my husband had been buried. They were upset that I had rejected their polite request. They threatened to sue for my husband's estate, further complicating the situation. For the record, there was a will, and it stated that all his possessions were to be transferred to me. I couldn't understand why they would make such threats. When they mentioned suing, I thought it was a bad idea. My husband had clearly stated that even if they went to court, they would never win. They blamed me for not speaking to their son for 8 years and for not being able to reconcile, but I didn't accept that reasoning. They believed I manipulated my husband to turn against them and ensured that they would be left with nothing. I was appalled, told them to leave, and after they left, I drove home. At that time, I was so angry that I couldn't think calmly and completely forgot about the video my husband had asked me to show his parents if they came to the funeral. I had completely forgotten about it until I got home and remembered. Indeed, I clearly remembered preparing and recording the video with him a month before he passed away. I knew this video would be very painful for the in-laws. After resting for a few days, I decided to tell my in-laws how they had treated their son, and that the cause was not me, but themselves. A few days after the funeral, I decided to contact them. However, since we were both refusing to communicate, I decided to drive directly to the in-laws' house to show them the video. They were surprised I had come, but I approached calmly, informing them that my husband had left something for them, and I had come to show it. I could feel that they strongly wanted to close the door on me, yet I also felt that they were interested in what I had to say. However, they were curious about the content, so we went to the living room and watched the video together. My husband might have foreseen that his parents would trouble me after his death. That's why he had arranged all the necessary legal measures. The content of the video was him criticizing his parents' past actions. He talked about how his parents treated Cindy specially, always prioritizing her and putting him second. He also talked about the terrible treatment he received from his parents during high school. His parents refused to pay any expenses for his college education, and instead, they partied day and night. Yet, whenever his sister started something, they spared no expense, spending thousands of dollars on her. When he started his first job, his parents were always comparing him and Cindy. At that time, Cindy was making a bit more money than my husband. However, his parents' dismissive attitude toward his startup plans was utterly unacceptable. They never admitted their mistakes, and when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, they avoided talking to him. Now, they have no right to complain to me. My husband thought that leaving them nothing was most fitting for them. In the video, he told them never to appear before me again, and since they had been as good as absent from his life, his death should not matter much to them. Similarly, my husband did not concern himself with his parents or family, because for him, the only true family was me. Those words warmed my heart, and tears involuntarily spilled from my eyes. At the end of the video, the words he spoke about me were particularly impactful, and by the time it finished, the in-laws were at a loss for words. After it ended, I stood up calmly and said, "Even if you sue, I will use this video as evidence that my husband cut off relations with you and left nothing. He had been treated horribly by his parents for years, and they should not blame anyone but themselves. I hope they understand that this situation was not due to my influence or manipulation. Instead of accepting this, they blamed me and accused me of being cruel to show them the video while they were grieving the loss of their son. Furthermore, they claimed I had used an editing app to alter the deceased's face in the video, continuously constructing illogical theories to evade their guilt. When I responded that I had no obligation to prove anything, they called me selfish and said I did not deserve what my husband had left me. They seemed confused while accusing me. Since then, I have wondered if it was right to show them that video. While the in-laws had always treated my husband poorly, they were undeniably his family. I regret showing the video to my in-laws a little. It's been a week since I visited them, and they have yet to contact me. On the day I left their house, they were furious, accusing me of intentionally trying to hurt them, threatening to stop the lawsuit, or instigating them to contest the will. If they wish to proceed in that manner, they are free to do so. However, it would only be a waste of their time and money, as they will gain nothing from it. Still, if they intend to ignore the video's contents and go to court, I will not stop them. Since then, I've been busy every day, with no time to think deeply about this matter. Right now, focusing on work is my top priority. I must face realistic challenges and future considerations without dwelling on grief. I am truly fortunate to have supportive parents. I've been spending these last few days with them, and it's been a great help. When I return home exhausted from work, my parents take care of all the household chores. My father has encouraged me by taking on all the responsibilities my husband used to handle, such as paying bills and shopping for groceries. I am naturally forgetful, so my mother handles the cooking and cleaning. We had a housekeeper before, but she had to leave for personal reasons. I told my parents about it a few days ago, and the next day, they arrived at my house with their bags. I am truly grateful for my parents' kindness and happy that they care so much about me. On the other hand, it seems my in-laws have decided to contest my husband's will. I was informed about this by my husband's lawyer. Nevertheless, I feel that even if they lose the lawsuit, it won't cause a major issue. I was surprised when they sent me an email saying that the method I used to drive them away was wrong. They felt that the video did not prevent them from achieving their goals. To them, what my husband had built should naturally pass into their hands. Because he was their blood relative before he was my partner, they believe they have a stronger right to his estate. They assert not only their right to his property, but also insist they are entitled to the business shares they consider rightfully theirs. However, courts make decisions based on law, not emotions, so their sense of entitlement will likely not help them in the lawsuit. Thinking the email could be useful evidence, I forwarded it to my lawyer. I am still living with my parents, and their support has been very helpful. My parents have also offered to speak with my in-laws to try and resolve the issue amicably. As parents, they believe that negotiating might improve the situation. However, I told my parents that it's fine, and that I prefer the in-laws to proceed with the lawsuit. I know that the lawsuit will be a massive waste of time and money for them. My real goal is to have my in-laws exhaust their resources and time. Over the past few weeks, friends and acquaintances have been visiting to express their condolences and concern. Some who could not make it to the funeral have been in touch, and I've been busy with responding to them and my work commitments, leaving little time to deal with my feelings. However, the other day when I went to my husband's office to retrieve some work-related documents, I was unexpectedly overwhelmed with tears. I missed my husband terribly. I could imagine him standing there, and I wished I could tell him how much I loved him and how lonely I felt, but the realization that it would never happen again was heart-wrenching. Now, my sole focus was to ensure our business thrives, keeping the sorrow to myself. I believe doing so honors my husband's memory. He dreamed of us succeeding in building a prosperous life together, and I am committed to fulfilling that dream. It has been about 2 weeks since the in-laws contested the will, but so far, there has been no significant progress. However, something unexpected happened yesterday. I received a message from Cindy. Honestly, I was surprised. Considering our limited interaction and what her parents are currently doing, it seemed odd for her to reach out. We aren't particularly close, nor do we usually exchange messages. I hadn't blocked her, so her message came through directly. The content was that she wanted to talk and asked if she could come to my house. Initially, I felt uneasy and thought about refusing and blocking her immediately, but then I decided to hear her out. I felt it was the right decision to have a proper conversation with Cindy, especially considering her effort to contact me, since it might be related to her parents in some way. Thus, I replied, inviting her to come over. My parents were home, so I wasn't particularly worried. When Cindy arrived, she was holding flowers and offered her condolences. She said she hadn't been able to express her grief at the funeral due to the chaos and wanted to let me know how deeply saddened she was by my husband's passing. Her words were very warm, and I was speechless because they were completely different from the selfish, noisy persona I had associated her with from family gatherings. She seemed to have changed significantly, having quit drinking several years ago, which was clearly evident in her demeanor. Then, she finally got to the main point and told me that her parents were trying to hurt me and that it would be very unpleasant. The in-laws had concocted several lies that my husband had borrowed money from them to start his business, and they were planning to claim that my refusal to meet their demands was because I had to pay them back. Since there was no contract, the in-laws couldn't legally sue me, and instead, they were planning to post about this matter on social media. This plan was utterly foolish, and I couldn't understand why they thought it would work. However, thanks to Cindy informing me, I was able to prevent this in advance. Cindy apologized, explaining that she had been trying to become a better person over the last few years and had thought about reaching out to us several times. However, due to her past behavior towards her brother, she hadn't been able to muster the courage for many years. She regretted that it was too late now that her brother was gone. Suddenly, she started crying, and I didn't know how to respond, but my father quickly came to comfort her, made her tea, and helped her calm down. When she was leaving, calm again, I reassured her that everything would be all right, and that my husband would surely appreciate her efforts. She seemed a bit relieved by this. Even if it took her a long time to realize her mistakes, I believe my actions were not wrong. At least Cindy had regained her composure, something that the in-laws could not achieve. Honestly, I no longer hold any grudges towards her. I had thought the in-laws did not provide enough support to either of their children and favored Cindy, giving her special benefits. But in reality, they were just indulging her, and ultimately, neither child received any real love. I felt very sorry that both of them were so underprivileged. They deserved to have met better parents and lived a more loving life. I informed my lawyer about what Cindy had told me. Ultimately, we decided not to take any action immediately. We planned to wait for the in-laws to make their social media post, which we could then use in court later. I spoke with Cindy as well, and she said she would be willing to testify against her parents if it came to that, so everything was proceeding smoothly. Eventually, the in-laws did make the post on social media. I immediately sent them an email warning that I would take legal action for defamation if they did not remove the post. Although I was hoping they would leave it up, they quickly realized they were fighting a losing battle. Perhaps knowing that Cindy was on our side made them understand that they could not win. They removed the post quickly, but continued to claim that they had not given up on getting everything from me. I was getting quite tired of dealing with them, so I wished them luck and blocked their email address. This allows the in-laws to act however they please now. I sincerely wish them well because I feel they need it. With Cindy no longer on their side, they've become isolated. I plan to watch from afar how they manage to move past this incident.